Hi everyone, and welcome to a DML tutorial. In this tutorial, we are putting together a few modules to create a training mission that endlessly respawns opponents. The goal of this tutorial is to show you how to assemble modules to build a bigger whole, much like you would build a house from Lego bricks. I want to create a mission to train against air targets with the following features. I want to be able to spawn enemies on demand by choosing from a menu. I want to be able to choose between 3 different targets, and I want to be able to have the mission surprise me by randomly choosing one. Before we start, let's briefly assemble this in our minds. First, we need to decide how we want to spawn the enemies. This is my first decision. We use clone zones. They are very flexible and easy to use. Let us quickly recap how cloners work. On mission start, clone zones save whatever is inside them into a template and then remove the units. Whenever they receive a signal on the clone input, they spawn a clone of the template. And that can happen as often as you want. Next, we need a good way to tell the cloner to do its job. My module of choice for this is the radio menu module, because we can tell it to create an output signal whenever we want. A radio menu has up to 4 menu items named item A through item D, and each menu item connects to its own output, named A! Through D! So here's what we are going to do. We place 3 clone zones in Mission Editor and call them clone A through clone C. We then create a radio menu and wire each individual output A! Through C! To their corresponding input in each clone zone. With this setup, we can tell each cloner to spawn whatever is in their template. For the 4th cloner, we use another important cloner ability, to use other cloners' templates. As we discussed, when the mission starts, a cloner creates a template of all the groups inside its zone, and later clones that template when told to do so. An alternate way for cloners is that they use another cloner's templates as source. It simply imports that cloner's template and clones it. Even better, this feature is designed so that it can work with multiple templates. In that case, whenever it is time to clone, the cloner chooses one of the templates by random. And that is how I'm going to set up the 4th cloner. We add the source attribute and point it to the other 3 cloners. Then we wire this cloner's input to radio menu's 4th output D! And we are all set. So, now let's build this in Mission Editor. We start DCS and enter Mission Editor to create a new mission. The first thing to do is to add the required modules, and for brevity I have skipped this part. Suffice it to say that we have created a mission start trigger that loads the following modules: CFX Common, CFX Zones, CFX MX, Radio Menu, and Clone Zones. Having done all this, we choose where the training will happen. I like the Seneki-Kolki area. First, I place my own aircraft. I click on Add Aircraft, then Blue, then FA-18. Note that you can choose any aircraft you want. I happen to like the Bug. I set the skill level to Client, place it on the map, and have it head due east by placing a waypoint near the right edge of the screen. Now, let's zoom out until we can see both Senaki and Kutaisi. Create a trigger zone above Kutaisi, call it clone A and set its radius to 500. Zoom in slightly so that we can better see what we are doing. Then add a first attribute cloner. This tells DML that this zone is a clone zone. Now add a new attribute clone and answer it with CA. This tells DML that any time the value of flag CA changes, this cloner should run through a clone cycle and spawn everything in its template. Now all that remains to be added is the aircraft that I want to train with. I choose Add Aircraft, then Red, then MiG-21, Rookie, and place the plane inside the trigger zone and click near the left screen to make it head in the general direction of my player plane. Let us zoom out and ensure that both planes will encounter each other. Make the blue plane head for Kutaisi and the red AI plane to head to Kolki. Now add a new trigger zone over Kolki near our own blue plane. This will be our player menu. Set the zone name to My Menu and size to 500. Now add an attribute Radio Menu and set its value to Training. This tells DML to create a new communications menu called Training that can be accessed via Main Other. Add a new attribute item A with value Spawn MiG-21. This tells DML to add a menu item Spawn MiG-21 as first item in the training menu. Add a new attribute A! With value CA. This tells DML that whenever the player chooses the Spawn MiG-21 item, it should change the value of the flag CA. Since we know that the clone zone called Clone A is looking at this flag, every time that the player chooses this menu item, the cloner spawns. At this point, it makes sense to stop building the mission and see if what we did is sound. Save the mission and run it. As soon as you enter the cockpit, hit F10 to view the map and zoom to be able to see Kutaisi. There must not be an aircraft there. On mission start, the cloner should have created a template from it and then removed the flight. Looking good. Now, select Communications Other, see that you have a training menu, choose it, check that you have a Spawn MiG-21 menu, choose it. A new red aircraft symbol should appear next to Kutaisi, exactly where you place the clone zone in Mission Editor. Sometimes things don't work out the first time you test this. Usual suspects are that you forgot an exclamation point or a question mark for the attributes. You misspelled an attribute or misspelled the flag name. Since everything does check out with this mission, let's go back to the mission editor and add the other two cloners. Back in mission editor, we zoom in to Kutaisi, click on clone A and hit copy, Ctrl Charlie. We then move the mouse to a position slightly north and hit paste, Ctrl Victor. We change the name to clone B. This is the second clone zone and it should activate when we choose the second item in the menu, so we change the clone attribute to CB. Now all that remains is to place an enemy group inside the clone zone. I select Add Plane, Red, MiG-25, Rookie, and place it inside the new clone zone. Zoom out until you can see Senaki again. Then click on Senaki to set a waypoint. Now click on the My Menu trigger zone to bring up our radio menu. Add a new attribute item B with value spawn MiG25 and add a new attribute B exclamation point with value CB. This connects the radio menu's item B output to cloner B's input. Rinse and repeat for the third clone zone, clone C. Copy clone A, paste south of Kutaisi, change name to clone C, change clone question mark to CC, place a third plane, and here I'm choosing a helicopter, a hind, set rookie skill, place in zone, zoom out, and place a waypoint on call key. Select My Menu and add the following two attributes. Item C, spawn hind, C exclamation mark with value CC. We now have wired up all three cloners with the three menu items, and it's time to test again. Start the mission. Once in the cockpit, check that the map over Kutaisi is empty. Now, go to Communication, Other, Training, and choose Spawn MiG-25. The MiG should appear on the map. Now, go to Communications, Other, and choose Training, Spawn Hind. The hind appears, confirming that all is well. To regression test our design, let's also spawn the MiG-21. So, this looks great. Let's get back to Mission Editor. For the final part, zoom into Kutaisi. As before, copy clone A and paste it somewhere close to the other three cloners. Call it clone D, change clone question mark to CD. Unlike before, instead of adding a flight into the cloner, we now tell DML to use the three other cloners templates, clone A, clone B, clone C. Add a new attribute source, and then list the zone names for the three other cloners, separated by commas. Make sure your spelling is correct. And then go to the My Menu zone and add the final menu item D with value random. Then wire the D exclamation point output to clone D's input by setting the value to CD. Enter the mission, go to Map, take a deep breath, and choose Communication, Other, Training, and Random. See if and what pops up. Request a random spawn a couple of times more, until all three different aircraft have spawned. Now we know that the mission works. Congratulations! It's time to start polishing your work. Go back into Mission Editor and configure your own aircraft and all the enemies with weapons. Perhaps add some other cool stuff or exchange one of the aircraft with a SAM site. But you won't need me for that, so enjoy and start experimenting. It's fun and incredibly rewarding. Have fun!